So please welcome Matt McGough. I grew up a huge fan of the New York Yankees, which when I was very small involved going to games maybe once a year with my father, my little brother, watching Reggie Jackson, then a little bit older watching Dave Winfield, and then when I kind of came into my teens, Don Mattingly, who was my absolute favorite player. And as I went to high school in New York, and it was kind of a turning point the first time that I went to a Yankee game by myself, and I started going to Yankee games by myself. And it was at one of these games in the fall of 1991 that I went up to the stadium, bought a ticket to the bleachers, and went and sat in the bleachers and was watching the game, and noticed for the first time something that I'd been to the stadium so many times before, but I'd never seen this kid in right field wearing a Yankee uniform who was a Batboy playing catch with the right fielder. And I'd never noticed the Batboy before, and this kid could not play catch for his life. He was throwing the ball over Jesse Barfield's head, the right fielder, and he was one-hopping him. And I was like, I'm not a great athlete, but I can play catch at least as well as this kid can, and I don't understand why he has that job and I couldn't. And so I went home that night and I tore a page out of the program that listed all the different Yankee executives, and I wrote a handwritten letter to everyone from Steinbrenner on down to Stump Merrill, who was the manager at that point, and basically said, my name is Matt and I'm 16 years old and I'm a huge fan of the Yankees, and I don't know if you can apply for this Batboy position, but if you can, I really would like an application, and I'm so excited to hear from you that if I don't hear from you soon, I'm going to follow up with a phone call. So sent these off, and about 2 weeks went by, and after 2 weeks I hadn't heard anything, and so I picked up the phone, and the Yankee switchboard number was on the same list of executives, and secretary answered the phone, "Hello, New York Yankees," and I said, "Hi, this is Matt McGough," and I sent a letter in a couple weeks ago about applying for a Batboy position, and nobody got back to me. So she's like, "Okay, well, I'll take your name down and I'll have somebody get back to you," and she took my number down, and another week goes by and I don't hear anything. So I pick up the phone again and I call, and this woman answers the phone, "Hello, New York Yankees," and I say, "Hi, this is Matt. I sent some letters in about the Batboy position, and I called last week, and somebody was supposed to call me back, but I thought it was kind of rude that they hadn't." And so she laughed and she asked me, "How old are you?" And I said 16, and she laughed some more, and I didn't really understand what she was laughing at, but she took down my name again. She said, I'll make sure that somebody gets back to you. So, a few days later, sure enough, in the mail, a letter arrived on Yankee letterhead, official letterhead, and it invited me to come up to the stadium for an interview with Nick Priori, who's the clubhouse manager. So I put my jacket and tie on, and I don't even think I told any of my friends about this because it was way too weird to explain. So I went up, took the 4 train up to the stadium, and walked around the stadium. And this is October, so they weren't playing in the World Series in October back in '91, so it was very, very quiet. And I walked around the stadium and walked into the Yankee lobby, and there was a security guard there, and I introduced myself, and I said, "I'm here for the Batboy interview," and he picks up the telephone, and he's like, "Nick, some kids here to see you," and "Oh, okay." So he says, "Have a seat." So I sit down in the pinstripe lobby, and I'm, passing about 10 minutes waiting for this guy Nick to come up for the first job interview of my life, for the first job of my life. And I'm, trying to think of the questions that he might ask me. So I'm ready to tell him what my favorite subject is in school, and tell him, why I think the Yankees need a big bat behind Mattingly, to win the pennant next year, and what, Mickey Mantle's batting average was in 1956, and like all these different questions. So, I'm kind of passing the time, and these double doors burst open, and this guy walks in, obviously Nick, but he doesn't introduce himself. He's, could be anywhere from 40 to 80 years of age. He has this greased back hair, and he has a stogie between the 2 teeth left in his mouth, and a chaw of tobacco possibly also, and this wife beater t-shirt, and Yankee shorts, and white athletic socks pulled up to his knees, and he has shoe polish, like black sneakers that are obviously shoe polished, and he just looks at me and says, "Are your parents going to mind you taking the train home late at night?" So I say, I take the train to school every day. I think it'll be fine. And he just kind of looks at me, and finally I say, "No, I don't think my parents will mind me taking the train home late at night." And he says, "We'll come back opening day." So That was October. I go home. I think I have the job. I'm not really sure. And 6 months later, opening day, 1993, I show up at 9 a.m. I put on my jacket and tie. I walk back to the stadium. I go back downstairs, through these tunnels and come to this, big steel door that says Yankee Clubhouse on, and I walk inside, and it's complete pandemonium. And there's these ball players that I'd only seen before on TV or across rows and rows of stadium seats, and they're there in the flesh in front of me. And Don Mattingly is over, on the right, and I had a poster of Don Mattingly above my bed, for my whole life, and he's standing right over there. And Jimmy Key, the ace of the pitching staff, is over there, and all these guys. And opening day at Yankee Stadium is not just a sports event; it's a news event. It's the beginning of spring in New York, and Mayor Dinkins is there with his entourage, and it's Mayor Dinkins and Don Mattingly. It's so I'm walking around and just kind of lost, and I figure I better go find Nick. So I walk up to Nick and I say, Nick, I'm Matt. We met a couple months ago. What do you want me to do? It's my first day of work. So he says, stay that F out of my way. So I kind of shrink back and throw my backpack over on the side, and I'm just kind of wandering around in a daze, and I feel a tap on my shoulder. And I turn around and it's Don Mattingly. And he sticks his hand out and he says, how's it going? I'm Don Mattingly. Are you going to be working with us this year? Which, even at that moment, I'd never really thought about the experience in those terms. And he could have said so many other things that wouldn't have been as cool as that. Like he could have said, who are you? Or are you the new Batboy? Or are you going to be working for us this year? But he said, I'm Don Mattingly. Are you going to be working with us this year? So I said, I know who you are, Mr. Mattingly. I'm Matt. I'm the new Batboy. And he's like, great to meet you, Matt. I have a very big job to ask of you. I've just unpacked all my bats from spring training, and I don't know if it was the altitude of the flight up from Florida or the humidity down there or what, but the game starts in about 2 hours, and I need you to find me a bat stretcher. So I say, okay. So I go and find Nick, and I go, Nick is busy. Probably half a dozen ball players are bothering him for AA batteries, or my hat's too small, or this or that. And I go up and I'm like, Nick, I need a bat stretcher for Don Mattingly. And he lets loose with a stream of expletives that fell on, I swear, completely virgin ears. I never heard that type of language in the movies before or anywhere, let alone directed at me. So I kind of rock back on my heels and go and find somebody I can trust, like Nick's assistant Rob, and I ask him, I need a bat stretcher for Don Mattingly. And Nick told me to go F myself, and I don't know what to do. So he was like, chill out. I saw Danny Tartable using one in his locker. So Danny Tartable's the, power hitting right fielder. I go to his locker, and he's getting dressed in his uniform, and I stand off on the side, and he says, how's it going? And I'm like, fine, I'm Matt, I'm the new Batboy, and I need a bat stretcher for Don Mattingly, and I heard you were just using one. So he's like, well, I was using one, but I left it in the manager's office. You should probably go check in there. So I say thanks, and he says, see you around. And I go into the manager's office and walk in, and Buck Showalter, the manager, is having a press conference with probably 8 or 10 reporters. And I stand off on the side, and I'm kind of, the conversation comes to a standstill basically because there's the 16-year-old kid there in his Easter blazer and jacket and standing in the manager's office at Yankee Stadium 2 hours before first pitch on opening day, looking very lost and very anxious. And Showalter turns to me and he's like, can I help you? And I say, I'm Matt, I'm the new Bat. I'm really sorry to interrupt, but I need a bat stretcher for Don Mattingly, and Danny Tartable says that he left it in here. So Showalter looks down beneath his desk, and he's like, well, do you need a right-handed one or a left-handed one? So this is the first moment all day that I actually, this is the first question that I had that I could answer with complete confidence, because you couldn't have grown up in New York at that time, without knowing that Mattingly was the best left-handed hitter in baseball. So I say, I need a left-handed bat stretcher. So he's like, well, I think we maybe have a right-handed one around here, but probably not a left-handed one. And you should try down at the Red Sox clubhouse and see if they have one. So I said, okay, thanks. I'm sorry to interrupt. I go out. At this point, I'm sprinting down the hallways, the tunnels beneath the stands, the first base stands at the stadium, and I run into the Red Sox clubhouse and find their equipment manager and give him the whole story. I'm at him, the new Batboy for the Yankees, and Danny Tartable left his right-handed bat stretcher in Buck Showalter's office. I need a left-handed one, and the game's about to start, and he's like, calm down, we don't have one, but we need one. Like, here's $20. Go up to the sporting goods store on 161st Street and River Avenue and buy two. Like, buy a left-handed one for Mattingly and a right-handed one for us, and then bring me back the change. So he gives me the 20, I put it in my pocket, I run upstairs. At this point, it's like an hour before opening day. The fans are coming down, like 50,000 fans are coming down from, the subway in the opposite direction that I'm walking. I'm the only person in the world who knows that, if I don't come through on this mission, Mattingly is going to go up there against Roger Clemens and the Red Sox on opening day at Yankee Stadium with a toothpick in his hand, basically. So I'm like fighting against the crowd and feeling so much weight on my shoulders, and I make my way, and I'm about to cross the threshold of Stan's Sporting Goods when it dawns on me, like, I've played a lot of baseball in my life, and I've, been a big fan for a while, and like, I don't even know what a bat stretcher looks like. And this moment that I'm like walking into the store, it dawns on me for the first time, like, is this a joke? Like, could this possibly be a joke? And if it, but I've had so much fear because, like, if it is a joke and I go back and I tell Don Mattingly, I'm too smart to fall for your BS bat stretcher story, and I'm wrong, I'm going to be back in the bleachers, like, before my first game, and lose my dream job. So, I take 3 laps around the stadium, kind of convincing myself, like, it's got to be a joke, like, it's got to be a joke. And I walk back in, I go down the stairs, I walk into the clubhouse. Mattingly winks at me from across the clubhouse. A couple of other ball players laugh. Mattingly goes 3 for 5 that day. Yankees win. It was my first day in pinstripes. And, I didn't learn until later on that I was the first kid in anyone's memory to have gotten the job without having a connection, without, somebody knowing somebody, or my dad knowing somebody, or whatever, which was, a lesson in itself. And, as intensely naive my pursuit of that job was, I was probably as naively intense in chasing the bat stretcher. But, the lesson in the story is, when there's, with a great deal of persistence and a little bit of common sense, even if the thing you're chasing may not exist, you can sometimes will it into being. Thank you.
Matt McGough. Woo.